Hey, welcome to Alex Listens. This is the place where I talk about things like philosophy and politics and psychology and identity and that kind of stuff. So today I'm going to be providing a brief overview of, the main philosophical underpinnings of the question of free will. So before actually getting onto the question of free will, I suppose it's worth saying that this question has bothered our species for such a long time. The question of free will is present in every day, in every single thing that we do. In gesticulating right now, in choosing the words that I choose, and in situating things in this room. Like I have these pot plants behind me, some books, and that kind of stuff. So I suppose I should provide you with a crude definition of free will. In its most crude form, and don't forget that this is a really radical oversimplification, free will refers to the capacity to have some kind of authorship or mastery over one's decision-making, or one's actions, or one's choices. And the reason why I say some degree of mastery is because I believe, and many other people believe, that free will exists on a spectrum. So I guess on one side of the spectrum, you have the people who believe in radical free will. And one of those people is the French existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. And he believed that, I'll just choose some act. So right now, I'm raising my right hand. So at the moment, at that exact point in time where I was choosing to do something to demonstrate a particular behavior, so I chose to raise my right hand, he would say that the extent to which I am free is so radical that I could have done anything at that point. Even if I go back in time and the world was precisely as it was and my brain states were precisely as they were, to the point where I chose to make a decision. Even if I go back to that point, I am free to behave in any other way. So I can, hit the phone off its tripod. I can throw this microphone out the window. I can do whatever I like. I have my issues with that position, and in the following videos that I make, we will see why that is a problematic claim to make. But in order to understand the historical and I guess philosophical context within which free will exists, we need to understand the other side, determinism. So the determinist believes that something, either our brains or something metaphysical or something supernatural, that something else is responsible for configuring our conscious experience. So you might go down one path where you may believe that God is responsible for illustrating our conscious experience and configuring our decision-making. In which case, you might believe that to the point where God becomes the one who is morally responsible for our decision-making. Because if you are so deterministic that you believe that human beings have absolutely no authorship over their own decision-making, well then how are we supposed to hold each other morally accountable for bad things? So I think that's an incredibly difficult position to maintain. And I haven't heard it successfully defended by anyone. Okay, so then we move further down the deterministic spectrum, and we get to someone like Sam Harris. So I'm not sure whether Sam Harris would like to be labeled a determinist, but I suppose the way he thinks about free will kind of gives off the impression that he actually is a determinist. So what does Sam Harris believe? His interpretation of free will is rooted in science. And so he refers to this study, which is kind of the hallmark of his free will / determinism position, which is a study that illustrates something like researchers were able to predict with up to 80% accuracy what option test subjects were going to choose up to 7 seconds before they consciously reported having chosen a particular option. So I guess to oversimplify this study, people had to choose between two things, coffee and tea, and before having, up to 7 seconds before having, reported, oh, hey, I've made a decision, I'm going to choose tea, researchers were able to ascertain from, brain studies or whatever, which option people were going to go for. So in light of that pretty breathtaking study, I guess one thing that Sam Harris says is that free will exists as an illusion. And it is in that sense that we are to interpret that claim. Free will is an illusion insofar as there appear to be things outside of our conscious control which have some kind of mastery over our conscious experience. So there are things outside our conscious control which are influencing our decision making. So we may feel as though we are free to make a particular decision. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm to choose between a banana or an apple, and I sit there and I deliberate and I'm brooding and potassium, fructose, whatever, like, do I want something acidic? And then I decide to have the banana. Really, that decision is made elsewhere by something that perhaps was influenced by that kind of deliberation, but that wasn't entirely a product of that deliberation. And that's very problematic, because really, what does that say about free will? I suppose it says that it doesn't exist in that really radical form, like the existentialists believed. That, I'm so free that at any given point I can act however I like. Okay, cool. Well, I feel like I've thrown so much information at you, but hopefully you've been able to sift through that and you have some kind of foundation for discussions of free will and determinism and that kind of stuff. So subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be making some more soon. I also have a podcast called Alex Listens. I interview philosophers and politicians and musicians on there. I interviewed Peter Singer. I'll put a link down below. Otherwise, have a nice day. Bye.